Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lili Bartha. I'm the founder of Digital Fashion Framework, and I would like to thank you for the opportunity to be able to talk today for the organizers. I think it's an amazing conference, and there are lots of topics being discussed that are vital in relation to the fashion industry and how it's changing. Today, I'm going to talk about the future of fashion education and the role of technology within that context. I think it's a really important topic to talk about. As you can see, the fashion landscape is changing, therefore the education and the curriculum as well. First, let me introduce my studio. We are working with bespoke content creation, virtual garments, bodies, and environments. Working with our clients, we realized that delivering this content can open up new product channels. Therefore, we started exploring how immersive experiences, for example, virtual and augmented reality, can enhance the products and show new ways of brand exposure. But as mentioned, the fashion industry is changing and brands and retailers are really eager to understand how to actually use these tools. So we also offer consultancy to education institutes, labels, and individual designers. And we are very importantly focusing on research and development activities because we also think that working with innovative technology can really lead to new solutions. For example, the role of artificial intelligence and how can you implement it. So what is fashion technology? First of all, I think there are many approaches to this topic. I'm not going to explain all of them, but I want to highlight three core topics that I think are important to mention because today we're talking about an educational context, how to create assets, how to create the content, how to make it experimental, how to deliver the experience. These are all three topics that my studio works on a daily basis. And I think when it comes to an educational context, what emerging designers who are entering the industry will face, I think these topics are important to talk about. So fashion technology can provide lots of new solutions. It's not the only solution, but it definitely helps, I think, to enhance different processes in the supply and value chain. Often companies use digital prototyping to actually enhance and increase the effectiveness of how they are visualizing products and experimental approaches. It also provides a quick visualization opportunity to see design outputs, for example, different colored sweaters, if you quickly want to mock them up. But they are also a new channel to promote the products, the new collections of the brand, and they can also narrate new types of stories. I think brands are becoming more and more aware of this, and this is really important when we will talk about how fashion education and the emerging designers entering the industry should build their tool set and skill set. And it also originates in new products, because I firmly believe that digital-only products will be in the near future very common day-to-day assets that we use. Therefore, it's really important to understand how can we actually create products like this and facilitate their use. And of course, when it comes to digital tools, the manual labor, the craftsmanship of fashion is really important to understand how it transforms, but it's still there. And it opens up a new understanding of what does it mean to create high quality bespoke content. Also, obviously, sustainability is a core issue, and my studio particularly is focused around how to implement digital tools to actually reduce negative societal environmental footprint. And I think when it comes to emerging designers and entering this industry with these critical issues, it's really important to think about how these digital tools will enable to increase the efficiency of the industry, but also reduce the negative environmental footprint. And when we talk about fashion, I often say it's all about self-expression. So how does that change or transform or expand when we enter the digital realm? I think this is a very interesting topic, and due to recent kind of spotlight on, for example, gender and race and diversity, I think it's more important than ever to discuss these topics, especially from a digital perspective. Why now? I think we are all aware of 2020 being a really challenging year. It highlighted a lot of, how to say, structurability issues in the fashion industry that has been there for a long time. It really accelerated as well digital solution adoption because brands are in distress. Their supply and value chain are not really built for these kind of situations. So there's a huge potential in entering this industry right now. It also increased dramatically the e-commerce and online sales. And we have to remember that the return of online bought items is the highest in fashion. That has been always a critical issue. And I think it's more important than ever to actually look at it and how to reduce that return rate because it adds to overconsumption, overproduction. And based on our research, customers would be much more excited and maybe could create a longer lasting relationship to the product if it's experienced in a new immersive channel. Therefore, there's a lot of reason to think about how the landscape is needing designers coming out from educational institutes or self-taught. Just two numbers that I think are really striking. Small and medium enterprises across Europe are so open to innovate and implement digital content, but they are not necessarily capable of doing so. Therefore, there's a huge need for professionals like my studio and like anybody who can train themselves or exit an education to actually help them. Equally goes for retailers. They want to have these labels. They want to have their labels to create digital content facilities to actually show the promotional product, for example. And equally, they are seeking professionals who can help them with a huge range of digital tools. So just to summarize so far, the industry landscape is rapidly changing and retailers, designers, big brands are all looking for people with a vital skill set. There are lots of tools and skills in this discussion, skill set. But what are those skills? I think it's really important to plug into a team that already exists in a brand. It's really important to understand the brand's vision. It would be the same for any other fashion position. But I think brands are also expecting emerging designers to have a really diverse skill set, to understand different kind of software and hardware and their connection between them and bring in a new and innovative, inspiring approach to the brand content because these new tools can enable new channels and new product divisions. Therefore, they're looking for professionals who don't just understand the brand, but can bring in new opportunities. In terms of fashion education, I think education institutes are more and more recognizing the importance of implementing, for example, in the curriculum, how to use tools, how to understand what are the possibilities. I think this is only beginning to happen now. There are many, many universities who have regularly courses on, for example, digital garment design. And I think it will be really exciting to observe how this moves forward. And then in terms of the work structure, I think it's really interesting because having done multiple internships myself, the fashion hierarchy has been always a really famous one where you start really low and with hard work you can actually go to a higher position. But I think that digital innovation is actually changing the landscape. There are more and more common opportunities to get a commission work or freelance opportunity. So you're not a permanent employee for a company. And I think this is a good and a bad thing at the same time because it gives you freedom to actually engage with many companies, many projects, many retailers and build your portfolio. But it will also risk your daily living because you are not always able to count on having a job the next day. So these are, I think, really important factors to take into consideration. And now I think it's also important to mention, for example, acceleration programs. My studio is working with a couple of independent sustainable labels in Denmark for a couple of months now. We are helping them to increase their exposure through digital products. And it has been a really interesting experience because from firsthand, I can see what they are actually lacking, what kind of tools and capabilities they don't have, but how strong and inspiring vision they have. So for example, emerging designers who are just finished an education and have a diverse tool set, they can really help these brands to actually bring their content to the next level. So what are actually the tools? Again, I would just select a couple of them because I think it's really important to kind of think about an educational context, how self-representation works. When a fashion designer designs garments, obviously we all think about who will actually wear the garments. And in the digital, diversity, inclusivity equality and understanding the digital representation of people is really important, and push the limits and understand that we have so much more opportunities than in reality. And of course, digital garments. If we create it from existing materials and technical packages, often brands are looking for that. They will have their materials digitized and ready for the designer to actually replicate the 3D models. But I believe that you can also push forward here, and you can actually explore digital-only garment possibilities that I will talk about later. And the most important, in my experience, is actually the environment, the experience, how you deliver the content, how you actually show people the new ways of understanding a brand and its content. I will show a couple of videos right now where you can see different visualization of digital products in a specific environment. These are digital campaigns that my studio has done, and they want to represent the narrative, the role of storytelling, and how important it is in virtual solutions and delivering virtual content. This particular space is a game that I designed. It enables the user to enter the universe in virtual reality and explore the fashion content from a first-person perspective. It's a really immersive experience. You can see the model wearing the headset, and in real time, you can also see behind her how she's experiencing what she sees. It's a very experimental project, but I think it shows the potential of how emerging designers can actually narrate stories and understand that, for example, building games or virtual reality experiences can be a key to actually show brands their new talent and vision. So how can we implement all this into education? I believe that obviously education needs to show designers and students core skills and core knowledge, but you cannot fully rely on it because it's all about you. What do you want to explore? How do you want to form your practice? Of course, being a user is really important, understanding how the software and hardware works. We are talking about fashion technology. So that means there is a lot of hardware and software that we need to understand and kind of connect and work between them. But I think the students have a wonderful opportunity to kind of explore freedom, innovate, and push beyond how you are just a user of this software. So implementing these tools into the design process and how fashion students would traditionally work, for example, draping around the body, fitting on a model, these can be all approached from new directions. Also, I met a lot of students like myself who work with digital-only collections. So suddenly they decide that they don't really want to work physically anymore. I think there are a lot of reasons for this. My personal experience was that I just got fed up with the physical output I'm making, because as I mentioned, there are a lot of problems in the fashion industry around sustainability that can be combated if you actually start to digitally work. Of course, this originates a lot of questions. How will we experience digital garments? Maybe in the end, I will talk about it a bit. But I think from an educational perspective, it's really important to show students that there is so much more than just being a user. And research is really important because pioneering the tools is one thing, but pushing them forward, combining them and understanding how can it, for example, explore embodiment, how can it improve supply chains, is all coming from that. And I think students can actively engage in activities with research when they're in an academic context. Few things I would like to highlight: the role of digital labs. I'm a firm believer that building communities and network is really important. So a support hub or technical hub, academics and students work together is essential when it comes to reading the new version of designers who have this kind of expanded tool set. Also, spatial work will enable us to quickly share our digital work with each other, especially in a remote world like this today, where we actually cannot really meet to show each other what garments we design. So these two topics, I think, are really important to kind of take into considerations when we talk about the fashion curriculum and how it's going to change or how it's changing already. I'm going to show a couple of examples of, for example, working with digital human building. I scanned the body and I started tweaking it, and it really enabled me to understand how can I push beyond the digital representation of human, how I usually look at them. Or for example, just prototyping garments and kind of moving beyond reality and what I could physically prototype. These are all inspirational and abstract tools. I think it's really important, as I mentioned before, to kind of move beyond the user state. So when you're a fashion student, just go crazy. Just explore the tools. Try to use them how it's not meant to be used. Try to combine them with other disciplines. Try to work with game design. Try to work with experience design. Because I think when you're in the digital, you're not a fashion designer anymore. You're a fashion experience designer. This video is one of my favorite ones. It's my first experience in virtual reality. I had no idea how to work with digital software. I had no idea how to create anything. So I just quickly dragged my images and a couple of 3D scanned objects. Literally, I had no idea how to be a digital designer, but I remember that the first moment I started filming this experience, I started understanding the space around me. It just all made sense that immersive solutions can really change how you look at your own practice, how you kind of work and develop yourself in an educational context. So when you're entering the industry, you actually have a really unique perspective that you can offer to the industry. This is, for example, an augmented reality garment. I found it important to show because often when students work in the digital, they kind of lose the sense of tactility. They lose the sense of materiality and hands-on experiences. Fashion is so hands-on, all about the body, all about the 3D sense, all about the touch of fabric. We kind of lose this. And I think this can be sometimes a problem for students because when it comes to entering the industry, they are suddenly faced with the reality that actually brands are still producing physical garments. So, all the things I developed and learned, how will I be able to help them? So this augmented reality application helped me to actually bring my digital designs into the physical showroom. That's an actual plastic dummy and it's a real room, but the garment is only in my phone. It was just an interesting way to kind of visualize the things I'm designing. It's one-to-one scale, so I could walk around it, I could film it, it was moving. It really gave me a sense of what I'm actually creating is not just only behind screens. So I would like to finish off with summarizing. The industry is changing. The fashion landscape is rapidly evolving. Digital tools have been around for a long time, but I think this year and recent disruptions in the whole fashion system really highlighted their importance and it really sped up the implementation process. So all I can advise to students and educational institutes and everyone who is kind of learning these tools is to be confident and believe in yourself because this is all available online. You can learn it and it's really depending on you how you use it, how you will implement it in your practice. To discover how you will be an asset to the industry, you have to be confident, but you also have to have a unique vision. And I think that's where we have a new potential to explore. You're not anymore just a fast fashion garment designer, but you can actually tell stories in new ways. I think this is really challenging. It's really hard. Probably when I'm talking about it, I'm just really motivated because I'm excited, but it has its ups and downs. The learning curve is really challenging. I think fashion education has a core role in preparing the designers for the future, but the designers themselves are the ones who are responsible for their individual career development and how they formulate their practice. Really important to think about how sustainability, diversity, inclusivity, and equality will kind of form all this, how you implement the digital tools, how you work with physical tools. So just really be aware of the combination of these. And I'm just gonna play one more video because I have so many. This is another digital campaign where we are telling the story of this digital garment. And I find it especially entertaining because there is nobody, but you can still kind of advertise the garment and you can still tell the story of it. So when I think a fashion student is kind of exploring the possibilities of the digital, think about how does this enable you to kind of go beyond how you would represent fashion and how you would create garments, and think about how you become from a fashion designer to a fashion experience designer. That's it for now. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm really interested to see if there are any questions. Hopefully we will be able to respond them to later. And I would encourage everybody to, if you're interested in digital tools and you want to learn more about this, then have a look online, reach out to people, build communities, form a network, and share skills and knowledge, because this is how the industry can move forward. Thank you so much for the attention.